True or false? In July 1518, something wild happened in Strasbourg, France. People started dancing uncontrollably in the streets for days, even weeks. Can you imagine that? They couldn't stop dancing even when they collapsed from exhaustion, and some even died from heart attacks and strokes. But was it a real event or just a wild legend? True or false? Well, get ready to be amazed because this story is absolutely true. It's one of history's most baffling and terrifying medical mysteries. It all started in July 1518 with a single woman, known to history as Frau Traffia. She stepped out of her house in Strasbourg and just began to dance, not with joy, not with music, but with a silent, frantic energy. She danced for nearly a week straight. Within days, dozens of others joined her. By the end of the month, the number had swelled to over 400 people, all caught in this non-stop, twisted waltz of darkness. Can you imagine the scene? The streets of a medieval city, filled with people dancing wildly, their faces twisted in pain. There was no music, just the sound of shuffling feet and gasps for air. Historical records from the time, including physician notes, city council orders, and local chronicles, all document this strange event. They described people whose feet were bloody and bruised, who were begging for the dancing to stop, but their bodies simply wouldn't obey. The local authorities were completely bewildered. At first, their diagnosis was hot blood, a medical theory of the time. Their prescription, more dancing. Yes, you heard that right. They thought the victims needed to dance the fever out of their systems. So they cleared out guild halls, set up a wooden stage in the middle of the marketplace, and even hired professional musicians to keep the beat going. Their logic was, if we make them dance even more, they'll eventually tire themselves out and be cured. As you can probably guess, this was a catastrophic failure. The organized dancing only seemed to encourage the plague's spread with the constant motion and the summer heat. People started collapsing. The death toll began to rise. Contemporary sources claim that at its peak, the dancing plague killed up to 15 people per day. The causes of death were typically heart attacks, strokes, and sheer exhaustion. The dancers weren't just tired. They were literally dancing themselves to death. After weeks of this horror, the city officials finally realized their cure was making things worse, so they switched tactics completely. They banned all public dancing and music. The dancers were gathered up and taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, a saint who was believed to have the power to cure nervous system disorders. The victims were made to pray and give offerings, and slowly, over the next few weeks, the epidemic began to subside. The dancing finally stopped. So, what on earth caused this? To this day, nobody knows for sure, but there are several leading theories. One of the oldest theories is that the dancers had consumed bread made from rye grain contaminated with a fungus called ergot. Ergot fungus can cause a condition called ergotism, which produces muscle spasms, hallucinations, and convulsions. It's the same fungus from which LSD was originally synthesized. This could explain the involuntary movements and the hallucinatory state some dancers seem to be in. However, this theory has its problems. While ergot can cause spasms, it doesn't typically produce the coordinated, dance-like movements described. Also, ergotism often restricts blood flow to the limbs, making prolonged dancing nearly impossible. Another, and perhaps more widely accepted, theory is that the dancing plague was a case of mass psychogenic illness, also known as mass hysteria. Think of it as a stress-induced psychosis affecting a large group of people. The people of Strasbourg in 1518 were living under extreme duress. They had just endured a harsh winter, widespread famine, and were suffering from diseases like smallpox and syphilis. the region was steeped in poverty and superstition. The theory goes that this immense psychological stress manifested physically. Frau Raffia might have had a personal crisis that triggered her public dance. In a deeply superstitious and stressed out community, this strange behavior was highly suggestive. People saw her, and their own buried anxieties and fears erupted in a similar physical way. It became a social contagion. The dancing was a collective, unconscious way for a community to express its unbearable trauma. This explains why the authorities' attempt to control it by organizing it only made it spread faster, and why it finally dissipated when the victims were taken to a religious shrine, a powerful psychological intervention at the time. While the dancing plague of July 1518 is the most famous, it wasn't a one-off event. Similar dancing manias were reported across Europe from the 14th to the 17th centuries, often following periods of hardship. It's a chilling reminder of how powerful the connection between the mind and body can be, and how extreme stress can push human behavior into a truly bizarre and terrifying territory. So, the next time you feel like dancing, just be glad you can stop when you want to. What do you think caused this strange historical event? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the weirdest corners of history. See you next time.